morning.
Beautiful. So what we want to do this morning is understand exactly what has happened, what is going on in court. So Dr. Sedo is a banker, Martin Pebu is a lawyer, Malik Abbas Jabo is a journalist. We are here to help you know why these banks are in court or why these bankers are in court. First of all, Malik, what has happened?
Well, so we know that the Attorney General yesterday submitted this charge sheet before the High Court. And these are matters relating to some 4 persons, the Republic versus these, against these 4 persons, and they are William Atuesian, Tetenete, Fitzgerald Odonko, and Kitty Kote Papafew. Now, who are these persons? We know that William Atuesian is the founder of then Capital Plus Foundation, which became Capital Plus Savings and Loans, and then became Capital Plus Bank, and subsequently Capital Bank. He's a founder. Tetenete, the only place where I have seen Tetenete's name is in the Builders report, where Tetenete and one Abdul Malik Abubakar founded a company, and they were the principals that received some monies through the transactions of Capital Bank. That's the only place where I have seen his name. Fitzgerald Odonko used to be the CEO of Capital Bank. Kate Kote Papafew, we know her. She's an industrialist. She's a businesswoman. She's a founder of. She's the owner and founder of Rural Cables.
Yeah.
We know her.
Yeah.
Now, these 4 persons have to answer altogether 26 counts.
Mm-hmm.
26 counts relating generally to conspiracy to stealing, abetment of the crime of stealing, and money laundering. These are the key offenses that these 4 are being accused of by the Attorney General. Now, the total sums involved in the case, if you add all of the various sums involved, it's 262.5 million. There are 8 categories of amounts involved here. There's 100 million, which is the first count. The count 1 is conspiracy to steal, contrary to Section 23(1) and 1241 of the Criminal Offences Act. And the particulars of this offence is that William Atuesian Tetenete, between October and November 2015 in Accra, agreed to act together with the common purpose of stealing the sum of 100 million, which is the property of the bank. Now, this is the narration that attends to all of the other categories of amounts involved here. 30 million here, there, 50 million, 35 million, 2 million here, and 12 million here. So all of that put 70 million, that's the last one. That's the one involving, that's the one in which Kate Kote is cited.
So all of that together makes 262.5 million. Right. Okay, so let's first of all take the legalese to Mr. Martin Pebu. Mr. Pebu, thanks for joining us. What kind of jail time are we looking at here, if any of these persons are found guilty? Stealing, conspiracy to steal, abetment, and money laundering. Abetment of the crime of stealing, of course, and money laundering. Hello? Mr. Pebu, are you there? We are finding it difficult to get that connection clear. So let me move to Dr. Sedo rather to help us understand exactly what went on behind the veil. Now, Dr. Sedo, what do you think went wrong? How is it that a person founds a bank or starts a bank, he and his MD and some other businessmen end up a few years later being charged with stealing?
Thank you very much. If you pay close attention to what has happened and what is happening, there's one thing that comes out clearly, which is our understanding of owning financial institution. Now, financial institution is not like, let's say, selling tomato in the marketplace, where you put in your capital and that is it. Now, when you set up a bank, you are required to put in a minimum capital. And that minimum capital basically is to enable you lay out your infrastructure. Let's say if you're going to buy a building, rent a building, buy IT system, hire people. So you deploy your capital to lay infrastructure and subsequently you mobilize resources. Now, this understanding doesn't sit well with us. We interpret banking to mean having access to other people's money and abusing it. And that is what we are seeing. And unfortunately, our regulatory capacity is not strong enough to ensure that people do banking the way it should be done. At least I listened to the president of Ghana Bankers Association describing what happened as non-banking. So that is where we are. Now, if we are to understand that the capital you put in the bank is risk capital, and that the losses that you make will erode that capital, if we can understand it that way, then we would run banks properly with due care. So my initial comment is that we do not understand the principles of banking properly.
Interesting. So is that related, for instance, to when people say, I can't steal from myself or I can't steal from my own organization?
Clearly, it tells you that whoever said that didn't understand what banking is. Because how much did you put in? Those times, capital was 120 million. Now, how much are we pursuing now? It's over 200. Basically, you've eroded your own capital long ago. Or even if you have it, you've deployed it in fixed asset, and you can't take it back at that point. So the money that has gone out belongs to depositors or creditors. So that is the money you have taken. Now we should be asking ourselves, where was it possible for somebody to take out that kind of money easily? Per the rules, even if you are a director, a non-shareholder, a director, if you want to take money from the bank, you need approval from the central bank. And shareholders don't put in shares, and the next day they want to come back for it. If you want to realize your investment, you need to go through the harvesting process, not some other means of taking money out. I'm wondering, did we have a board that looks at the performance of the bank? Did we have a managing director? Do we have controls? Do we have the authorization process that we know that this is the person who can authorize this level of transaction? Because over time, we are saying a certain amount left the bank. How come it was so easy? Look, the signal we are sending out is that if I have money, I shouldn't take it to the bank because somebody would abuse it. And we can't develop a nation with that kind of mentality. We need to do the right things, mobilize resources for development. But if we run financial institutions this way, we are only shooting ourselves in the foot.
I'll come back to you again, Dr. Sedo, after food for thought. But I just want to get this clear. From what you are saying, I get the impression you would have expected more people to be involved in this suit.
Certainly so. Looking at governance issues, that money has left the bank. There should be report to board. There should be report to central bank. Who authorized this transaction? And why are we now being called on to pay for this transaction? You and me never benefited from this transaction. Why do we have to bear the brunt? Who are the people who authorize it? And why did they authorize it? Those are the questions that should be asked. There's a board, because Bank of Ghana mandates that a bank should have a board. Bank of Ghana has a supervision department who should be supervising transactions of banks. That kind of money, when it moves, it must show on a dashboard. If somebody is not seeing it, then there is something wrong, and we need people to answer questions.
Dr. Sedo, like I said, we'll come to you immediately after food for thoughts to continue this conversation, particularly specifically which periods you're talking about and how some of these monies may have gone with them. Of course, we are not going to pass judgment on this show on something that's going on in court. But it's time for food for thought, and it's brought to you by Roverman Productions. Uncle Ebo White's latest play, Not My Husband, shows at the National Theatre on the 12th and the 13th of October this weekend. Grab your tickets at the usual outlets or call 050-554-6010 or WhatsApp 050-554-6030. GCB Bank is also helping us bring you food for thoughts. GCB Bank, your bank for life. Good morning, Uncle.
Good morning, and I'm Dan, and how are you doing?
I am blessed. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And thanks for passing by on Saturday.
Oh, you don't have to thank me. I have to thank you for
and
giving
hiding.
I have to thank you for giving me a very good show.
And hiding. And I was telling people that I suspect I know why he hid.
Okay, let's do the message.
It has to do with the conversation that he doesn't want us to start on this platform.
No, it's just that I want us to do the food for thoughts very quickly.
We'll surely do it. How do you know whether this is not a food for thought?
Oh, no, I know. Uncle.
Malik, you haven't passed by.
I'm booked this Saturday. I was supposed to come. I had a conversation with Ronnie, but we agreed on this Saturday.
And you come in with her?
She's out of town, but I'm coming with a Ghanaian who lives in the US, but is in Ghana at the moment.
Okay.
Yes.
Male or female?
Uncle Negro's daughter. Oh, she's...
full disclosure. I like this. I like this a lot.
But you see the confidence with which he's saying.
Yes. No strings.
No. But if we ask Dan the same questions,
no, he can't be as straightforward.
Time for food. It's just that I'm concerned about it. That's all. Food for thought.
Well done. Let me remind our listeners that Not My Husband runs for the last weekend, this weekend. Saturday and Sunday, 4 and 8 p.m. So let us see you. If you want to know whether it will be worth your time, ask Dan, and he will confirm that it is.
It will be. It's more than
worth your time. Dan, when I was in my 30s, I made friends with a number of older godly men, the youngest of whom was 65 at the time. I learned a lot from just listening to them talk about their lives. I discovered that although almost all of them had cars of their own, their biggest problem was finding someone to drive them around because they had stopped driving on account of poor eyesight. So I offered to be their chauffeur when they really needed one. One day, I drove one of them who was in his 80s from his home at Labadi to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital for his appointment with his doctor. When he was done and we were about to get back into the car, a taxi pulled up, and out of the taxi, an elderly woman got down. I estimated that she should be in her late 70s, but she looked strong, and it was obvious that she might have been very beautiful in her younger days. She said she saw my old man first and exclaimed, "John, is that you?" And without turning, my old man said, "Vera?" Then he turned and saw her and said, "I knew it was you. I can still recognize your voice anywhere." They hugged, and the old man introduced her to me, saying, "Ebo, this is Vera, my first wife. She left me and destroyed my life." The lady said, "Don't mind him. He left me and destroyed my life." And for 10 minutes, they argued over who left whom and who destroyed whom. Auntie Vera said, "You were not patient with me and you left and broke my heart." Uncle John replied, "No, it was you who was not patient and you left and destroyed my life." Then the interesting thing was that there was no acrimony or bitterness in the way they were confronting each other. They were very sweet with each other, and I could still sense the chemistry between them, and I knew that the love they had for each other had not diminished with age. That made me curious. How could they love each other so much and still walk away from each other? When they were done with their soap opera, and Uncle John and I finally took off, I was dying to know about Uncle John's Vera story and was trying to find a respectful way of raising the topic, but I needn't have bothered. Vera was all Uncle John wanted to talk about on the way back to Labadi. "You see that woman," he said, still flushed with excitement. "That is the only woman I have ever really loved." It turned out that they had been married for 8 years and had had 2 children and had walked away from each other after the 8 years. She had gone on to marry again, but the marriage did not last. And he had also gone on to marry 3 times, and none of them had worked. He said, "No other woman could replace her in my heart, and so I could not live with any woman." It was the first time I discovered one of the saddest realities in life, and it is this. People can walk away from each other when they are still very much in love with each other. As a 30-something-year-old man then, I could not make sense of that, but I have since seen this reality play out too many times in life that I have come to accept it as one of the ironies of life. It is very easy to question and doubt love when you have it until you lose it. It is easy to throw love away when you need it the most. This is one of the themes we shall be exploring in my play, Not My Husband, when it runs for the second weekend at the National Theatre. In the play, Alice walks out on the love of her life, Obed, fully convinced that he did not love her anymore and that she also had fallen out of love with him. It is also one of the themes I explored in terms of divorce, which after so many years still remains the favorite of many patrons. So why does this happen? Why do we doubt love and walk away from it? This morning I bring you 3 reasons why this happens. I share them with you so that you don't make the mistake of throwing love away when you need it the most. Reason number 1. It is very easy to take love for granted. One of the common mistakes we tend to make is to take love for granted. And love does not thrive when it is taken for granted. Love is like a garden. For it to blossom and remain beautiful, it needs to be taken care of regularly and meticulously. Reason number 2. We don't think we deserve love that is real, sincere, and pure. We reject love when we don't think we deserve it. And we don't think we deserve love when we don't feel good about ourselves. Many of us will not admit it, but we entertain the feeling that we are not enough. And so we doubt the sincerity of love because we ask ourselves at the subconscious level, how can this person love someone like me? And we answer that question with, well, it means he or she cannot be sincere about it. And reason number 3, love needs patience. When I was a little boy, I saw a number of couples at South Central who turned to my mother for counseling with their relationships. And there was one thing my mother always told the couples who came to her: be patient. Abotar. It did not make sense to me then, but now I realize that with patience, there is no problem that love cannot overcome. Then people complain that I address love too often in my plays. My answer to that is that your love relationship defines you more than anything else in your life. Unfortunately, whereas we go to school even to learn to drive, we have no school to learn to love and be loved. In my productions, I aim to meet this need in our society. I'm happy that even though some people are put off by it, many more appreciate it and welcome the lessons and insight they gain at every one of my productions. And I hope you are one of them.
I am definitely one of them, and I know there are hundreds and millions of them out there.
You are regarded as work in progress.
Thank you very much, Al Cleaver, for bringing us food for thought this morning.